Mobile gaming can be a great way to pass the time while you're stuck out and about. However, using the touch controls built into your smartphone is not ideal, especially when a game is built specifically for Xbox or PlayStation controllers, and then ported over or cloud streamed to your phone. You'll see a lot of mobile gamers Bluetooth a controller to their phone or tablet and then prop it up in front of them. However, this is taking away from the portability factor, considering you have a full-size controller and you have two separate devices. What if I told you there's a phone attachment that feels almost as good as a standard Xbox controller and will charge your phone while gaming? What if I told you this was a licensed Xbox product and had two remappable rear buttons and could double down as a very respectable PC controller? Today we're going to unbox, setup, and review on multiple categories the Moga by PowerA XP7X Plus. Quite a name, quite a device. The chunk of plastic we have on the table today is a $100 gaming device by Moga, and if you read the fine print on the box, you'll notice this is an offshoot or department of PowerA that's been making gaming peripherals, including controllers, for several years. Now, as per the lime green branding plastered all over the box, this is a licensed Xbox controller. You're ready to get super confused? This might be the only controller I've ever seen that is a licensed product for a console that it cannot be used on, i.e. this is a licensed Xbox controller. It's plastered with lime green all over it, but it's not for use on the Xbox, but it's a licensed Xbox product. I think the way PowerA and Microsoft are trying to swing this marketing campaign to even make it make sense is that you can stream Xbox games from Microsoft xCloud, which is included with Game Pass Ultimate, of course. So technically you're playing your Xbox games that way, but on your mobile phone with this controller. It all makes sense now. Android and Windows 10 or 11, you might be saying, Kevin, where's the iPhone support? Not here, unfortunately, but we'll try and do a couple of unauthorized workarounds to see if we can get this working on an iPhone 13 Pro. But even if you don't have an Android or compatible mobile phone, we're going to review this as we would any other controller so you can find out if this would make a good PC controller for Windows 10 or 11. Keep in mind, it is $100, which would put it into the premium bracket of controllers. Granted, the very entry-level entrance of the premium market. But still, triple digits, you're in premium controller territory. Welcome. Some of the key features mentioned on here is that this does have wireless phone charging. It does have a built-in 2000 milliamp hour battery that will charge your phone while you play. Enough jaw jacking and lip smacking. How about the packaging and included accessories? You do have a couple of translucent wafer stickers on each side, which you will need to slice and dice to get into your box. Pulling up the outer box, which is a very tight fit, you will see some more very spicy branding over here, which is very reminiscent of PowerA, which makes absolute sense. And the marketing slogan or catchphrase of this device is play your way anywhere. Right up top, you do have a little piece of documentation. This is going to be your instruction pamphlet or brochure, which is actually one of the nicest I have ever seen on the channel during a review. It is full color, crisp, vibrant, high resolution, and most importantly, informative pictures that are clearly labeled, good font, English is the primary language. This is what I like to see from an instruction manual or brochure. It shows me down to a T how to use my new hardware or software. Why can't all instruction manuals be like this? And it does clearly show you that there are two different methods or modes of using this as a controller. You can prop your phone up using the included stand and have your controller separate, or of course you can dock the phone into the device itself. Personally, I think this is an absolute winner for multiple reasons. For one, it charges your phone. This does not. Two, it's easier to see the screen because it's right in front of your face instead of on a table. This is more portable. This is more comfortable. Okay, that's enough reasons. And then you have your actual device itself. Now, this is a plastic mold. You don't have any laser cut foam in here or anything. However, for a $100 device, this is acceptable packaging. That is like the perfect weight. It's not overly heavy, so you're not going to be getting any wrist fatigue, even with the weight of your smartphone, but it also doesn't feel cheap and chintzy by being overly lightweight or having some flimsy plastics. Oh, you've even got little anti-friction rings around the analog stick gates? Get out of town, Charlie. Brown? Holy moly. Okay, I'm getting way sidetracked. Let's just set you down for a minute. Now, inserting one or two fingers, dealer's choice, into this hole, you will have some accessories in the bottom. By accessories, I do mean you will have a cable. This is actually micro and USB-C on one end and then USB-A on the other end. It does have a Velcro tie back. It is one of the ones that stays connected, which I do like. No company-specific branding on either side. This is going to be a proprietary micro USB cable because, as you can see, it has a special notch or cutout on top, so do not lose this. Little update to that. Good news, it's not proprietary. Just because it has that little cutout, I was actually able to use other micro USB cables. This must have fell on the floor, but you also have an adapter cable, which is micro USB on one end, and then USB-C, pop that off, micro USB on the other end as well. Manufacturer's weight and dimensions of this device are on screen here, but trusting gaming peripheral companies is not a pastime here at Gamer Heaven, so we are going to take our own measurements. Try it here, try it now. 12.3 ounces, 348 grams. And as for manufacturer controller dimensions, all they give you is the length, width, and depth. I take it a step further and actually measure around the hand grips. So what you can do is take a soft measuring tape and measure your palm and find out this controller is specifically meant for compact hands. This would be ergonomically good for me. At its widest point, which is around the hand grips, you are looking at 18 inches. Around just a single hand grip, you have a width of 5 inches. And from seam to seam, the front shell is 8 1/4 inches. My mistake, 8.5 inches. As for ergonomics and comfort, for a mobile controller, it is quite comfortable. For a standard at-home controller, i.e. for a console or PC, it is substantially less comfortable, and here's why. First of all, it is noticeably wider than a standard controller because, well, it's meant to have a cell phone pinched in here. How do you actually do that? Well, you remove this, and then you clamp your phone in here like that. There's rubberized coatings on the side and the back, so it won't damage your phone. It extends pretty wide, so even if you have a large phone like a Note, you should be able to get it in here no problem, even with a relatively bulky case. Keep in mind, the wireless charging might not work if your case is too big, so you might have to strip her out of her rubber. But since this is for phones, it is meant to be taken mobily on the go, so everything is pretty compact, i.e. the face buttons are pretty small and close together. They're also very close to this right analog stick. The D-pad is close to the left analog stick. And what needs to be mentioned for the comfort is that these hand grips are slightly too stubby. If you are used to a standard full-size controller, your pinky and maybe even your middle finger, if you have large hands, is actually going to be overlapping or maybe hanging off the bottom of the controller. And that also pertains to these rear buttons, which we will talk about during that section. But holding my hand naturally how I want to, it's kind of a stretch to hit these buttons. But if I slide my hand slightly down the grips, then I can cover the 2 rear buttons, but this is not ideal. Also, these plastic hand grips are nothing to write home about. They do have a little bit of texturing or stippling here, but it does virtually nothing. It is slick as snot. I would love to see some kind of rubberized grips on their next version or iteration of this product. Cheap rubber or silicone generally feels better than cheap plastic. I have tested more comfortable mobile specific controllers, and I have definitely tested more comfortable home controllers. I'm giving ergonomics and comfort 2 out of 5 on this controller. In case you're looking at that screen over there like a nosy Nancy and looking at the scores, those are not for this controller. That's for the AIM V3 that I reviewed a couple weeks ago. Mind your business. As for the build quality, other than the fact that the plastics do feel a little bit cheap and chintzy, this does feel durable, and it does not feel like it's going to break or disintegrate as you are installing and uninstalling your phone from this device, which I'm assuming you'll be doing quite frequently. Every time you need to game, you'll be snapping it in, snapping it out. You know, I'm being a little bit aggressive with this thing right now purposely. You probably won't be this aggressive with your device. The build quality does feel like you can constantly install and reinstall your phone in and out of this thing. It's not going to break. The plastics don't feel like they're going to disintegrate. I do like that there is rubberized padding in here to not damage your phone. However, the overall fit and finish and feel on the fingertips isn't fantastic, so I'm giving build quality a 4 out of 5. As for a quality control reputation, keep in mind this company is called Moga, but it is a sister company or offshoot of PowerA. So that is what we're going to base our quality control reputation on, considering that's where these products are coming out of. Holy moly. They're coming out of. Holy moly. Other than putting lead weights that look damn near like fishing weights inside of the palms of their PowerA Fusion controller, which I have tested and disassembled on this channel, other than that mischievous, scummy, sleazy move to try and make their controller feel more premium by making it heavier, but really it's not more premium plastics and materials, it's lead weights stuffed in the palms. I don't know if it's lead specifically, it's definitely a type of metal, as I have disassembled 2 of these PowerA Fusion controllers. I don't really think it matters whatsoever, I just grabbed that metal off the periodic table, but some uranium urologist down there in the petri dish of bacteria called the comment section will be like,
well, Kevin, it's actually not lead, it's titanium TM42, according to my calculations.
It's metal and shouldn't be there, according to my thesis paper. Other than that, which is infuriating, other than that, PowerA has an incredibly good, solid, positive quality control reputation in the controller community. Specifically having a good bang for buck. The PowerA Spectra is a $30 controller, the PowerA Fusion Pro is an $80 controller, and in those price points, they perform well and last a long time, and I hear minimal complaints about those controllers. Quality control reputation isn't graded, but if it was, I would give it a 4 out of 5. Would be a 5 out of 5 if they would get those lead sinkers out of the palms. Stay out of my tackle box, PowerA. And as for a warranty, if God forbid something goes wrong on this device, you do have a 2-year limited warranty. What is it limited to? Manufacturer defects and natural causes. She just stopped working on me, Chuck. I didn't drop her in the toilet, I can tell you that right now. As for the D-pad, face or action buttons, share and options buttons, basically everything on the front of the controller minus the thumbsticks. I wish I could grade the D-pad and action buttons separately, however that's not how we do it here, because the D-pad is phenomenal, but the face buttons not so much. And also the start and share buttons are a joy as well, as they are oversized, easy to hit, raised up out of the rear shell quite a bit, and most importantly, it seems like they went with a mechanical tactile switch for these. Nice! But if you're gonna do that for those two buttons, why the hey diddly would you not do that for the action or face buttons, which are just a membrane switch, which means there's a rubber plunger mechanism under there, meaning they're really squishy, mushy, nothing to write home about. Also, they are incredibly close together, which can be a good thing if you're playing a fighting game and you want to be able to do some roll-off combos, maybe cover all 4 of the buttons with just your thumb. But if you have medium to large size hands, I can definitely see you accidentally pressing some face buttons. The battery and Xbox home button also has a nice tactile click. I'm giving D-pad and face buttons a 3 out of 5 due to the face or action buttons being too close together. Now, as for analog sticks, joysticks, or thumbsticks, well, being able to have thumbsticks period when you're mobile gaming on your cell phone is a pro. But we are going to treat this subjectively just like any other controller review. These thumbsticks have a good resistance breaking away from the neutral position. They do snap back incredibly quickly. They do also have impact or anti-friction rings around the outside of the analog stick gates, meaning when you are at full lock, you will glide along smooth plastic rather than the rough plastic of the front shell. I love that the caps are black, but the bases are lime green. I think that looks phenomenal. But unfortunately, we have to talk about the surface area, what you're touching. This is not rubber, this is plastic. Or if it is rubber, it's like no rubber I've ever felt. You will need to use some kind of thumbstick caps, control freaks, or generic slipovers, because other than the rib design around the outside of the thumbstick, the middle does not provide much grip at all, and it does not feel good on the fingertip because it's hard plastic, not soft rubber. Not good. I'm very surprised to see this controller is labeled by name Moga XP7X Plus, as opposed to generic X input or generic Xbox 360 controller. Now, something to make note of, you do need to be in USB-C mode, as this controller will not be recognized by your PC, even if it is plugged in, while you are in that Bluetooth mode. Proving my statement earlier that the triggers are linear, not simply on and off. As you can see, I can modulate depending on how hard I pull them, and I'm not seeing any vertical or horizontal stick drift out of the box. As you can see, axis 2 and 5 at its neutral or natural position, which is the vertical and horizontal movement on the right stick, is showing a 00392. However, that is minuscule, in fact so low that it would not register in game and thus would not give you any out of the box stick drift. If you are having issues with stick drift on this controller or any others, I do have a video linked in the description below where I walk you through several programs on the PC to detect, minimize, or even completely eliminate stick drift. Now, I have tried various methods to be able to test the circularity of the thumbsticks via Gamepad Tester, and unfortunately I had no success. As for thumbstick caps, generic universal slip-ons like this will of course work. I will have these linked in the description below, but what about some name brand KFs or control freaks? These are for Nintendo Switch. Loose and wiggly, don't even stay on. PlayStation 4 and 5 caps, loose and wiggly, don't even stay on. And it would make sense that the Xbox caps would work considering this is an Xbox product. And they do. They fit perfectly, snug as a bug, and that totally remedies my complaint with the surface area or material on the thumbsticks. But as for stock condition without control freaks or thumbstick add-ons, I'm giving them a 3 out of 5. Triggers and bumpers. Now, this is a very mixed bag for me. I had to come back to this section multiple times and just sit there off camera, squeezing these for several minutes with a 1,000-yard stare like I just cracked the Da Vinci Code. It's not that serious, man. They're just triggers. I am indifferent about the plastics that they went with for the triggers and bumpers. It feels okay, but it doesn't have a very premium feeling. There is an extreme amount of resistance on these triggers, meaning you have to use a good amount of strength to pull them. They are linear, so depending on how hard you squeeze them, that is going to be registered in-game, as opposed to a lot of mobile-specific controllers, which are just buttons, so they're on or off, 0 or 100. These are actual linear squeeze, so you can modulate the throttle and brake in a racing game. Bumpers are in a good ergonomic position. These are not only serviceable, but relatively comfortable. I am going to go ahead and give triggers and bumpers 4 out of 5. I feel confident with that rating. These are 4-star. Rear buttons or paddles? While it is a welcome feature that this does have 2 remappable rear buttons, especially for a mobile gaming controller, I am not a huge fan of these bad boys. Let me explain why. First of all, ergonomically, they're not comfortable. Because the controller is very small, like I said, your pinkies and maybe even your middle finger, if you have very long fingers, is going to be hanging off the edge, meaning you have to figure out which fingers you're going to keep on these rear buttons. For me, it is going to be the middle fingers, but that's not very comfortable. If these buttons could be slightly higher and more inward, and these palm grips could be about a ½ inch longer, more reminiscent of something like a full-size controller, I do think these rear buttons would be much more usable. Usable, probably not the best word to use because they are usable, they are serviceable, but they're not enjoyable. Especially if you own a premium or custom controller, maybe a Microsoft Elite 2, maybe an AIM, Scuf, Battle Beaver, Razer, etc. for your PlayStation or Xbox, and then you pick this thing up, you're not going to be a fan. But if you've never used rear buttons, period, and you only have a cell phone, that's what you do 100% of your gaming on, this is a godsend for you to be able to keep your fingers on the thumbsticks aiming and moving while tallywhacking people in COD or Fortnite Fortnite Mobile. So ergonomics not fantastic, but what is good is how easy it is to remap them. You have this lime green button on the bottom. You're gonna hold it down for 3 seconds. You will get a status light flashing below the Xbox button. You are gonna press any button on the controller. So D-pad, face buttons, clicking down the left or right stick, and then you're gonna press AGL or AGR, which stands for the advanced gaming buttons. Marketing gimmicks, right? So you press the face button you want, and then you press the rear button you want. Bam. It will not stay in remapping mode. You do need to re-enter remapping mode to do the other button, but then you're good to go. And it will store your rear button settings on board. So if this thing dies, or you transfer it from your phone to your PC, it's gonna store your rear button bindings, which is good. I'm giving rear buttons a 3 out of 5. A unique section of this video, not in other controller reviews, is gonna be, well, controls specific to the mobile phone. This lime green button is to put your controller into remapping mode so you can program the 2 rear buttons. This slider lets you switch between USB if you're going wired on the PC or if you're Bluetoothing to your phone. This is gonna be your status light to let you know when your controller's on, if it's on low battery, or if it's in pairing mode. Holding down this button for 3 seconds will illuminate these 4 LED lights, showing you what level your built-in power bank battery is at. This Harry Potter forehead button is to turn the power bank on and off, so if you just want to check your battery level for the power bank, but not start dispensing power, you would use this button and not flip this toggle. You have a micro USB port up here, kind of gross. I'd like to see USB-C, we are in 2022. This is your Bluetooth pairing button. You will hold it down for 3 seconds to go into pairing mode. If you're having any issues with your controller, I do recommend doing a factory reset via this reset button, which is sunken into the rear shell and will require a paper clip or pin head. Then you have the removable phone clamp, which snaps the 2 positions and can be removed simply by sliding out. And now you can clamp your phone. You do have 2 rubberized strips on the back and 1 on each side. So you can play with your phone clamped into the device like that, or you can set up the removable stand and have your cell phone sitting on a table and play with your controller like this. Pretty sweet. Unfortunately, X Input Test also does not recognize this controller, so we're not gonna be able to test the out-of-the-box refresh rate, polling rate, or input delay. I have tried programs like Rewaz to spoof my PC into thinking that this is an Xbox 360 controller, to no avail. This controller is showing up in the Lord of Mice overclocking program as an HID compliant game controller, meaning that we do have access to overclock it. However, without access to X input polling rate checker, we have no way of testing to see if the overclock actually did its job and lowered the input delay. Plus 90% of people that buy this controller are going to be using it on Android mobile phones, and an overclocked controller in a world of people gaming on cell phones, it just doesn't matter. That's not where the competitive esports scene really lies. All huddled around a campfire with their tablets and cell phones, working on their snap aiming. No need to even overclock this thing. I just thought I'd try it because it is a controller review technically. So the cons, pros, and verdict of the Moga PowerA XP7X 7 Plus. What a name. We're going to start with the cons, and we're going to start with the small nitpicky stuff, and then work our way up to more severe issues. First of all, it isn't specific to this device, but all wireless power banks. There's a good chance you will need to remove your cell phone case in order to take advantage of the charging feature, because if your case is too thick, you won't be able to wirelessly charge. Also, besides that, I had to remove my case period just to get my iPhone 13 Pro to properly fit inside of this case, because it was all woppy-jawed or crooked with the case on. So there's a lot of phones you're going to need to remove the case in order to get her to fit snugly in this controller. Next up, the feeling of the stock thumbstick caps is terrible. They are not rubber, they are hard plastic. I'd recommend slipping on some Control Freaks. The face buttons feel small, cramped, and clustered together, which can be a good thing if you have very tiny fingers or you play things like beat 'em ups where you're trying to bust off combos. If you're playing anything else that requires precise control of the face buttons, have fun. Next up, micro USB. We should be moving away from that technology, please. Ergonomics and comfort are not the best due to them not using any kind of rubberized grips, and the stippling or texturing on the plastics not being the best either. Not to mention, to keep it mobile and portable, they cut off these grips, think of them like little snub noses, if you will. And if you got decent sized paws, your pinky's gonna be hanging off the bottom here. And the biggest con, shortcoming, setback, or area of improvement is the fact that this only works with Android mobile devices, so cell phones and tablets, and Windows 10 or 11 PCs. Zero Apple support. If you're trying to use this on an iPhone, iPad, or iPod Touch, if those are still a thing, you're not gonna be able to do it. We're gonna touch on why this is such a big deal during the verdict section of this video. And just to clarify, I did my due diligence and tried. Just because a manufacturer says a controller or device doesn't work on a certain platform, I try and force it to work on other devices, platforms, consoles that it's not meant to work on, so I can report back to you if it does. And the device was labeled in the Bluetooth settings of my iPhone. I was even able to pair or link up with it, but it did not work in any mobile games that I tested. I tried some Netflix exclusives, as well as some other games I had installed on my phone, and none of them responded. As for the pros, because this thing is packed chock full of them, this is a very versatile controller. The fact that $100 you can have a controller that works on your Android phone and charges it, then when you get home, boom, you can plug this in and have a very respectable PC controller. That's awesome. Next up, I'm going to list the 2-year warranty as a pro. I'll take it. The fact that this has rear buttons, period, is a pro. As mentioned, they're not great, but the fact that they're there, period, is welcome. Next up, the analog sticks, despite the fact that, like I mentioned, they're plastic, not rubber, and you should use some kind of control freak caps. The anti-friction rings feel good, and overall, they have a nice resistance, smooth glide, and a good amount of travel. Thumbsticks are a pro. And I do cosmetically like that glossy lime green. The fact this has an included power bank, i.e. a 2000 milliamp hour battery that will charge your phone, granted it does support wireless charging, and does not have too thick of a case on it, which is awesome because there is literally nothing other than maybe benchmarks that'll drain your battery on your phone quicker than playing games, especially with the volume and screen brightness cranked up. And if you have control of your screen's refresh rate, that cranked up as well. And finally, the triggers and bumpers not only feel serviceable, but they actually feel very good. The high resistance of the triggers has really grown on me, and I think the bumpers are in a good, comfortable position. So time to drop the meat gavel. What is the verdict on this product? Well, unfortunately, it is very limited in the amount of gamers that I think this is going to be a quality and useful product for. Who is that group, that niche, that demographic that you might fall into, in which I do recommend this controller for you? Do you own an Android cell phone that you play mobile games on, specifically platformers or shooters? So not just a racing game where you're tilting the screen, but something that requires maybe some analog sticks to run around and aim. Or specifically, you play a lot of console-based games. So you're streaming Microsoft xCloud games from the Game Pass app. So these are Xbox titles meant for a full-size controller. You don't want everything crammed onto a little touchscreen. This would make perfect sense for you. Now, if you have an iPhone and you were thinking about picking up this controller strictly as a PC controller, I would strongly advise looking elsewhere. Even if you want to stay within the brand of PowerA, they offer a controller for $30 that does everything this controller does, minus working with mobile phones and having a 2000 milliamp power bank for $30. Actually, currently it's $40. However, the version without the RGB or LED lights goes for $30 constantly. And it also does have trigger locks or stops to cut out some of the trigger pull. So if you're strictly a PC gamer, that controller makes a lot more sense than what I'm reviewing here today. Plus, if you're on PC, you can plug in an existing Xbox or PlayStation controller that you probably already have laying around. Save yourself some money. Or if money's not an object, you can buy a $300 flagship controller from AIM, Scuff, Battle Beaver, etc. and plug that into your PC. So in my opinion, it is not a good value for PC gaming because there is such a vast, broad smorgasbord or buffet of controllers that you can use on PC. But you're very limited in mobile. And if you have an Android phone and you want to charge it and have a comfortable gaming experience with remappable rear buttons from a reputable company like PowerA with a 2-year warranty, this has my full recommendation. So if you're Team Green, you own an Android smartphone capable of wireless charging, and you play mobile shooters, or maybe you play full-fledged console games streamed to your phone, this is a no-brainer and a high recommendation in my book. Drop in the comments section below if you Stallions and Stallionettes do any mobile gaming, and if so, what games and on what kind of phone. I'll see you tomorrow. Peace. If you enjoyed the video, liking it helps it to get seen by more gamers. This information will reach and assist them as well, which in turn helps me grow this little channel, which I do greatly appreciate. Subscribe for more content like this. I cover news in the gaming community and industry, tutorials helping you get set up streaming and YouTubing, as well as honest gaming product reviews, keyboards, mice, headsets, controllers, mics, chairs, etc. There are some hefty exclusive discount codes found only in the description of my videos and only for the audience here at Gamer Heaven. Check out Into the AM for some of the sickest looking and most comfortable cloth to ever grace my gaming giblets. If you don't want to be scorching your corneas with harmful blue light, check out Gamer Advantage, the only blue light glasses on the market that look sexy and actually work. If you're looking for a custom controller that'll blow the competition's tits back, AIM definitively has the best bang for buck or price to performance when it comes to Xbox, PlayStation, and Switch controllers. Nope, they don't do Switch, but they do gaming mice. I said doo-doo. I have links to all my other platforms and socials in the description below. If you need a quick laugh or blast of gamer adrenaline, check my short form videos out at TikTok. To get in touch with myself and the Stallions and Stallionettes of Gamer Heaven, join the community Discord, and check me out at twitch.tv where I go live every other leap year on a blue moon if it falls into an odd calendar number, and my pH balance is on point. Just kidding, starting June I'm going to be live streaming a lot. Thanks for watching. This has been AK40 Kevin hosting Gamer Heaven, and I'll see you tomorrow because I upload daily, all the time, 60% of the time, sometimes, most of the time. Peace.